All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wargames Podcast number 28 now. Joining me tonight is Locke, and also Hammer should be joining us here shortly. So, good evening, Locke.
Hello.
So tonight, as I mentioned in Discord, tonight's going to be a little bit different, only in the sense of just kind of changing up the structure of the podcast a little bit, and I guess somewhat what we talk about. It'll be a little bit more organized, I guess, tonight. Normally we talk about gaming and news and stuff like that, anyways, but it's a lot more just kind of, bar room bullshittery than really talking about specific topics. But tonight I actually went through and did a bunch of research and stuff and got some different news topics and things to talk about for tonight. So before we get into that, as Liquid already popped up the goal command there, I do have a special goal on the channel right now that'll be running for quite some time. If you are interested in what that is, what it's about, and so on, then go ahead and hit that command, which is !goal in chat, and that'll kind of give you a brief rundown on what's going on. Just so simply I don't have to keep repeating myself 15 times during a stream. But let's get into the podcast itself. So the first thing I want to talk about is probably some of the biggest news that's out right now, especially considering the popularity of these games, and that is the semi-sudden pop-up of all of these Battle Royale clones, more specifically the PlayerUnknown Battleground clones. And there has been now legal action taken in the form of actual paperwork filed for lawsuits against a Chinese company that has made a 100% knockoff of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds mobile version. So PUBG is PUBG Corp, I believe, is now the name of the parent company of PUBG. It's no longer Bluehole or whatever. It's now PUBG Corp. Is suing a Chinese company known as NetEase for their mobile clones of PUBG, citing that they have received irreparable financial harm. And it's understandable, as there's two clones that NetEase has made. Why they made two of them, I have no idea. But both of them have over 10 million downloads apiece. So it obviously is going to impact PUBG. And it's not like it's, this has a lot of the same mechanics or something like that. These games are identical, from the buildings, weapons, textures. I mean, everything is the exact same. But the thing I want to bring up on this is the fact that I don't know how big of fans, obviously, any of you are of the show Top Gear, at least Top Gear back in the day. I'm a massive fan. I've seen every fucking episode multiple times. There was an episode they did quite a while back where they actually went to China to check out some of the knockoff cars. They were, pretty much any manufacturer you can think of, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, all of the major car manufacturers. These Chinese companies do knockoff versions of their cars. Fucking Ray Charles could look at this thing and see, okay, yeah, that's a Mercedes, whatever. But every single time one of these companies would sue them, like BMW tried suing these companies, and it's in China, so it has to go to a Chinese copyright court. Every single time it was thrown out. They've never successfully been able to sue one of these Chinese companies under copyright infringement, because the Chinese courts just say, no, looks nothing like it. Because why would they? This is a company from outside trying to come into their country and say, yeah, these guys are stealing our shit. we want you to make them stop, which also means your country is going to stop making all this tax revenue off of it. So it makes sense why a Chinese court would say, yeah, no, we're going to let them keep it because they get to make money off of it as well. But that's where things get a little different with PUBG, and these being NetEase being a Chinese company that's doing a knockoff of PUBG's mobile version, is that PUBG is a big proprietor of PUBG, or a big component of PUBG is a company known as Tencent. They're a huge backer of PUBG. They're also a very big backer of Fortnite, which is my personal thought as to why Fortnite was never gone after. But the company Tencent is a massive presence within China. And I personally think that is why PUBG Corp or whatever is going after NetEase and may potentially succeed because they have the backing of Tencent. So we're looking at potentially this huge commercial battle between companies Tencent and NetEase going at it over these, basically proprietary textures and so on of PUBG. So, Locke, what do you think about all of this? This Chinese company doing a knockoff of PUBG. Do you think that PUBG should go after them and try and shut this company down, or should they just, say, hey, I guess, imitation is the best form of flattery?
No, I absolutely think they should go after them. I mean, China, it's no surprise China's been known for, knocking off everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to clothes, cars, games. I think they even tried to start like a Blizzard World theme park without Blizzard.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And Blizzard shut that shit down.
Yeah, Blizzard's like, that's cute. We have more money than your entire country. No.
Yeah. And I know Tencent's a big company in China. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, game company in China, I believe. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Pretty big. But I definitely think that PUBG should go after them and try to, stop that. Because I don't know if they'll succeed or not, but they should definitely try, because they can't just leave that stuff unchecked.
Right, because then it's just going to grow rampantly. Yeah. Now, what do you think about this fact, which is, to me, the fucking icing on the cake of this story, is that PUBG is suing, or, PUBG Corp is suing NetEase for, basically copying their game. The only response given so far from NetEase isn't, yeah, we're sorry, or hey, we'll pay you X number of money. No, their response is immediately to go on the offensive and say, oh, we're being sued for copying a game. If anybody tries copying us, we are going to sue them into the next century. So the guys that are already copying a game are saying, if somebody copies us, we're going to sue them.
That's next level retardation like that. That doesn't even make any sense at all. That, yeah. I mean, I don't even know how to comment on that. That's
it makes, it does make sense from what I've seen from, copyright, basically cases and stuff like that in China. This is totally normal. This is just the way shit is done. It doesn't surprise me at all that would be the response. But for us, that's like, what the fuck? Are you fucking insane? But that's totally normal for something like that in this type of case. But I do think that's fucking hilarious that they're like, oh, you're suing us for copying your shit. Well, we're going to sue anybody that tries to copy us. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't know if I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I don't know if that's some kind of tactic over there that leads to some kind of winning or, in favor of them, but I don't think so. At least, obviously that would never fly over here because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, here the judge would just be like, no, you're out of your mind. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. There's thousands of League of Legends clones and all of that mobile or MOBA genre that I God do not want to get involved in. But yeah, and speaking of all of the clones, a lot of you guys probably seen on Twitch the last couple of days. The next thing I want to talk about, it's been hugely popular on Twitch because, of course, it's given to the biggest streamers and say, hey, please make our game popular. And that is Boss Key Studios' new game, which is Radical Heights. Radical Heights is basically PUBG with different skins. It's an 80s themed battle royale game. And for anybody that doesn't know, Boss Key Studio is the studio that released Lawbreakers last year, which, for lack of a better term, fell on its fucking face. So Cliff Basinski, I'm sorry, I know I'm pronouncing his fucking last name incorrectly. When Lawbreakers was announced and he was working on this game and stuff, I remember this guy in like all of the news reports and stuff being hailed as like a great game developer, and this guy is amazing, this and that, and everybody was all over his dick like their name was fucking Trojan. And then Lawbreakers comes out and it just fucking dies. Like nobody gave a shit. It was insanely popular for like the first day or two when all the big streamers had it, and then it just fell off the face of the earth, to the point now that, I mean, it's completely dead. And when, looking through all of this stuff, it's been like 7 months or something like that since Lawbreakers was released. And this new game, Radical Heights, this new battle royale, 80s themed battle royale game, has been in development for 5 months. So 2 months after Lawbreakers just failed miserably, they were like, yeah, we got to put something else into development to try and like recoup this hemorrhaging money. And they came out with Radical Heights. So it's, as I said, it is another battle royale game. It's 80s theme. It's free to play, which is obviously different than PUBG or some of the others. When they first released it, or first announced it, there was a purchase in the form of a Founders Pack that you could get. And purchasing the Founders Pack gave you a huge currency pack of, I think it was $10,000, as well as a permanent 10% boost to all currency earned in the game. Permanent 10% increase in currency earned. And people immediately flip the fuck out because the money is very important. That's how you buy your gear, your weapons, stuff like that. So people flip the fuck out. Like, this is a free-to-play game, yes, but if I buy this Founders Pack, I permanently get 10% more money than anybody else, and somebody coming in down the line just don't have a chance at that. They'll never have a chance at it once the game is released. That's fucked up. So after all of this backlash, Boss Key immediately removed that feature, and stating, quote, "We don't want any elements of pay to win in our game." And my thought on that was like, how in the fuck was that not seen as pay to win the moment somebody inside of a boardroom suggested that? Like, how, you don't want any element of pay to win in your game, but that still somehow got through X number of fucking meetings and approved and put in the game? How is that possible?
I'm pretty sure with like most game companies, they're like, hey, let's throw this in there and see if anyone loses their shit, And then if like it squeezes by, no one makes a big deal out of it, they leave it in there for, extra profit. But as soon as people complain about it, they're like, oh, we never wanted that, we're gonna take it out. They change
right.
their
Yeah, they changed their fucking tune real quick, and that's my thought on it as well. Because again, with all of the controversy right now around pay to win and loot boxes and all of that and everything that went down with Star Wars, nobody wants to be associated with that. Nobody wants to get near that type of fucking argument with a 10-foot pole. So Yeah, I think it's exactly that. They tried to kind of slide it in there and like, hey, let's see if this is going to work or if they're going to rip our fucking heads off. And they ripped their heads off, and then they were immediately like, oh, no, we're taking that out. We didn't want anything like that. And it's like, how in the fuck, especially given how much of a hot topic this is as far as, microtransactions and loot boxes and pay to win and shit. How was that not a thought already running through your fucking brain when you implemented that in the game? Like, no, I'm calling bullshit on that. All right.
Yeah,
No.
so like Vertigo says, I bet nobody notices board members. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's like what they were going to do with Battlefront 2. They're like, we'll take out microtransactions for now, and then
Right.
we're going to put it later. And they never did because they know that people are watching them and no one will put up with it.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, though, too, is with that, and, obviously to go a little bit off topic here, with that situation specifically with Battlefront 2, I would love to know how much of that decision, not only to pull the microtransactions, but to still not add them in, how much of that decision is EA and how much of that decision is Disney?
Or DICE, yeah. Maybe Disney even, actually.
Yeah, sorry, DICE. But how much of that is Disney's decision? Because, I mean, we all know the immediate, or I guess the initial response of pulling them out. We know that had to have been a big part with Disney because it was public knowledge that Disney contacted the guys from Battlefront and said something to them, basically. Like, hey, we got a fucking movie coming out in a couple weeks, and you look up Star Wars right now in the news, and this fucking bullshit gambling stuff that's going on with your game pops up before our fucking multi-million-dollar fucking movie that's about to come out. Fix your shit. So, damn well, at least at the start, Disney had a big part in those microtransactions being pulled out because they didn't want their movie being associated with investigations of gambling going on in fucking Belgium and shit. But that decision to, keep them out and stuff, I would be interested in knowing how much of that is the developer and how much of that is Disney throwing their weight around, because Disney is very well known for, protecting their IPs and saying, this is our shit. You try and fuck with it, we will end you. So, I mean, I just obviously will never know, but I would love to know how that meeting went, or, subsequent meetings afterwards of, some Disney executive somewhere sitting down with some executive from EA saying, hey, you realize that our movies make like $1 billion a piece, right? Like, I will buy your fucking company and scuttle it just because I can. But to get back to the topic, I guess, of Radical Heights. As I said, this new Battle Royale game, Radical Heights, is made by Bosky. Bosky made Lawbreakers, which was an arena-type shooter with some pretty interesting concepts as far as, like, low gravity and some really interesting weapons and stuff. I will say, like, when I seen Lawbreakers, it looked cool. Watching the gameplay of it and stuff, it definitely harkened back memories to Quake 2 and Quake Arena and stuff like that. And the other thought that most everybody had was, okay, these guys are trying to cash in on Overwatch, because Overwatch now is, well, it was the top selling game in the world, and it's the top arena shooter. So to me, it was, after seeing this new one, Radical Heights, to me, my immediate thought was, okay, did this guy genuinely want to make a battle royale game and think I have something to add to this genre of game, or is this guy just riding waves? Because you look at Lawbreakers, he's trying to get back in on, the genre of arena shooters after it's now been repopularized by Blizzard with Overwatch, which again, biggest selling game in the world at that time. And Cliff was a part of arena shooters and stuff back in the day, so he does have knowledge in that genre. So that's probably why not everyone was like, yeah, he's just trying to rip off Overwatch, because he had done it before. But now with Radical Heights coming out and it's being yet another battle royale game, I personally have to look at it and say, like, okay, this dude did the fucking arena shooter because Overwatch was popular. Now he's doing a fucking quick throw together battle royale game because PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and Fortnite are massive. It, to me, looks like this dude is just trying to fucking cash in on whatever's popular at the time. What do you think, Locke?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. Obviously, battle royale games are like the big thing right now, and if someone can throw it together and put it out, that's probably what they're going to do. I've watched some of Radical Heights. I haven't played it yet myself, and it has kind of a charm to it. It's got the that 80s feel.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's got it's very casino-like sounds and visuals and that kind of thing, like Top Gun tunes when you buy certain things. And because it's not done, it kind of has that old game feel to it too, like really shitty graphics, and some places don't even have textures and shit. But I don't know, that might appeal to a lot of people just because it does feel kind of like a retro game, at least right now, with it being in the state that it's in. So
right,
there is still some appeal to it. But as for him developing it, I'm pretty sure he's just riding the waves.
Yeah, and for me, that's even further compounded by the fact that it looks like shit and that it's such early access. I'm sorry, I can't get behind we put it in early access so we can get more people's hands on it and, do more testing. Fuck off. All right, you're a fucking game developer. You say, "Hey, we've got a fucking closed beta." You're going to have 150,000 people sign up for it in the first 12 hours. All right, don't give me that shit. You put it in early access so that, people are playing it and you're going to try and fucking build revenue from it, which is where the fucking buying the Founders Pack came from. And, it definitely looks like he's just trying to cash in while he can. Yeah, the 80s theme is cool and it does make it kind of nostalgic, but I'm not going to let it, pander to me just because that's my generation and my childhood. Like, no, that's just a cheap ploy and it's something easy for you to do because you're in the same he's in the same age bracket that I am. So yeah, it's easy for him to do a game that's themed like that because it's shit that he knows, because it's shit that he grew up with. So it's like, in my eyes, he's taking the easy way out in every single aspect of this situation. I don't know, maybe I'm just being too harsh, but it definitely looks like he's just like, hey, yeah, the last game really didn't do well. Battle Royale's popular. I need some money. Let's get it done. Again, I don't know, maybe I'm being way too harsh, but that's definitely what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. It is yet to be seen whether it's going to be like super popular. I know that I think it was yesterday I was looking at the top games being streamed, and it was #1. But that's because Ninja and
that's
Tatman and people like that were playing it.
Yeah, like I was looking at Twitch yesterday, and there was like 135,000 people watching this game being played, and 105,000 of them were watching Ninja. And it's like, well, yeah, of course your game's going to look popular when you give a free copy to this dude and say, hey, can you play a couple hours of this? He turns on a stream, and within the first 5 minutes, there's like 30,000 people watching. Of course, your game is going to look popular, and people are going to want to fucking buy it because this dude that fucking is buddies with fucking what's his nuts is playing the game. So, of course, I want to fucking buy it. Like, yeah, whatever. To me, I don't like it. I don't like the practice of it. as far as like just shoving this game out there as quickly as possible to try and make some revenue. But the main question I have on this, as far as companies like Bosky and stuff, and even shit, no, I can't remember the damn name of the company that makes Fortnite
Games?
Epic Games, that's it. Which now Fortnite is surpassing PlayerUnknown's by quite a ways. But the question I have is this trend of all these battle royale games coming out. Is this a trend that we should be worried about, or is it something that we should be happy about because it breeds competition and makes these other developers kind of step their shit up to keep their game popular, keep their game relevant, and they have to keep updating it and add more shit. Again, with Fortnite, for example, it's still the same old kind of battle royale formula, but they added in the building portion of it, which to me is the coolest part of that game. Personally, I would never play Fortnite. I don't give a shit. It's not really my style, but I do enjoy watching it. Like, I find it entertaining to watch because of the building aspect of it. But what do you think? Is this something that we should be like, okay, now all these game developers are just fucking copying each other, they don't have any original ideas? Or is it a good thing because it's, for those people that do enjoy these games, it's causing everyone to kind of elevate their shit?
Well, as far as Fortnite goes, just going back to that for a second, it's a colorful game. It's got building, like you said. It's got that pastel kind of thing like World of Warcraft's got, right? So that's kind of popular with it. But I think for Epic Games is a no-brainer for them because the other Fortnite game mode previous to it, I don't think it was doing very well. Like, I could be completely wrong, but I don't know how many people were actually interested in it and were going to, play that long term after they found out all the microtransactions that were in it. They were like atrocious, I've heard. So it was kind of a no-brainer for them to see PUBG and then push it over, and now whenever one thinks Fortnite, they think the Battle Royale mode. They don't think of the other one, I don't think, anymore.
Right, not at all.
As far as if it's good that all these Battle Royale games are coming out, I don't know. I think it'll burn itself out in time. Obviously, I guess it's good for people who enjoy that genre. More games are going to come out, and they get to play more of the genre that they enjoy. But it's a fairly simplistic game mode. I think it's kind of hard to make, a really good game like Battle Royale, that does everything right. But at the same time, you don't have to come up with a storyline. You don't have to do a lot of animations or different characters and shit.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like you said, it's not necessarily easy to come up with a battle royale game that does everything right, but it's even harder to come up with a battle royale game that does everything wrong because it's such a simple fucking concept.
Yeah, exactly.
You take fucking X number of people, throw them in a circle with some weapons, and say have at it. So it's pretty hard to fuck up.
Yeah, the gunplay's got to be on point, the movement's got to be on point, and vaulting and all that stuff can't be janky and fucked up. But if that's all that a game company has to focus on, I mean, I'm not a game developer, but to me that doesn't seem like a whole lot of difficult things. You don't have to deal with animations and story and shit. So
yeah, and the thing with this, and why personally I'm, I guess, okay with the market being flooded with all of these battle royale games and stuff. Obviously, I've been gaming for a very long time, pretty much since the onset of gaming. This has always been the case. There's always, hey, this is doing well, let's do one as well. There was how many hundreds upon thousands of fucking platformers because Mario became popular. There was how many tons and tons and tons of fighting games because Mortal Kombat became popular.
Street Fighter,
Street Fighter even more so. But that's just the way things work. It's a market trend. Everybody follows the market trend for a reason. I think more so now people are I guess, more acute to it because there are so many other games. I seen a report the other day that there was 27 or 24,000 games released on Steam. So there's over 20,000 games available on Steam right now. When you look back to, old consoles and stuff, and not even all the way back to like Atari, but even like Sega Genesis and things like that, yeah, there was still a massive amount of games available for those because games were obviously much easier to make back then. But in terms of popular release games, you didn't have near the variety as what you do now. So now, when you do have that variety and there is a market trend, and you see that market trend being followed, you're more acute to it because you're aware that there's all of these other great games and great genres out there, but everybody's focusing on this one because it's popular. But when you think about it, maybe 10 years ago, if not, well, probably a little bit less than 10 years, what was the market trend? It was zombie survival games. And everybody was like, God, I'm so fucking tired of zombie survival games. Would they just end? Please stop doing zombie survival games. What was the market trend 15 years before that? World War II shooters. Everybody was fucking tired of World War II shooters. Like, stop making fucking World War II shooters. I'm done with them. What's now making a resurgence, thanks to fucking it being gone for a while? World War II shooters. Call of Duty World War II is their highest selling Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 3. Now everybody's also speculating that the Battlefield this year is going to be a World War II Battlefield. That market trend is coming back around because it's been gone for a while. So don't be fucking amazed when next year we see 15 World War II shooters come out.
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of like companies copying other genres and games and getting on the bandwagon, there are two types. There's like the companies who just want to make money, and they just toss out any kind of shit that they can.
Yeah.
And I think it does a disservice to the genre entirely. But then there's the other companies who actually try to put in their own vision and make the game better. But I find that that's much more rare than people just trying to make a buck.
Yeah, and as Vert was mentioning, the RTSs of the 90s, which is very easily one of my favorite genres and a market trend that I did enjoy because it was games that I liked. But yeah, definitely that, you had Dune 2000, you had the CNC franchise, you had StarCraft, you had Warcraft, all the other millions of fucking knockoffs that weren't, in my opinion, as good a quality. But for me, it was great because I had tons of RTS games to play, one, and two, CNC, my favorite of the franchises, had to constantly elevate their shit and make it better and better and better because they had Blizzard right on their fucking heels the entire time. So that, for me, was good. But there was, I'm sure, a lot of people back in 95 that were like, stop fucking making RTS games, for Christ's sakes. I want a dumbass adventure game. And then we got Myst, and it fucking eclipsed everything. Which apparently they're bringing Myst back, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
I have fond memories of Myst, honestly. Even my fucking mom loved Myst. I think that's the very first game I ever played on PC with like my parent. So.
Everybody loved Myst, and if they say no, it was stupid, I hated it, you're fucking lying, alright? I don't give a shit who you are. If you played Myst, you enjoyed it, and you fucking sat there for hours on end trying to figure out that one goddamn puzzle with the fucking valves, and which ones did you have to turn to release the water and let the fucking elevator down. Yeah.
Or like Return to Zork and King's Quest and all that shit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's always been the case. There's always going to be a market trend. Companies are going to follow it. Right now, that market trend just happens to be battle royale style games. What the next one's going to be, I don't know. We'll see. Personally, hopefully it's some type of fucking military simulator. I mean, Tarkov is making a hell of a try, so maybe we'll get lucky. But let's move on. Next thing I want to talk about is, I guess, kind of a company we already touched on a little bit, and that is EA. Recently, the former lead of BioWare, Aaron Flynn, had an interview with Kotaku where he, or actually it was during the podcast, and obviously, there was lots of questions asked, and the topic of, how much did EA get involved in the development of Andromeda? Because obviously Andromeda is a big issue when it comes to BioWare. A lot of people see that as, killing the franchise of Mass Effect, which I personally don't. I mean, I very much so think Mass Effect could still be salvaged, and they could still put out a new game fucking next year, and it has the potential to be amazing.
Yep.
But one of the questions was, or I guess one of the big accusations at the time was that EA forced BioWare to use the Frostbite engine because that's a engine developed by EA. And he said, at no point in time did EA ever force them to use the Frostbite engine. Which my immediate thought of that was, why wouldn't they use the Frostbite engine? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they go out and pay money to license an engine when they have an engine in-house that is plainly beautiful? I mean, I don't give a shit if you're a fan of EA or not. That Frostbite engine looks beautiful. But why wouldn't you use an in-house engine that can be customized and tweaked to your game, because you can fucking make a phone call or, virtually go across the hall and say, hey, Tom, can we do this with the engine? No? Can you make it happen? Oh, it'll take you a week? All right, sweet, thanks. Like, why would you not want to do that? And why would people think that EA would have to force BioWare to use an in-house engine? Like, does that make any sense to you? Because it doesn't to me.
No, not really. I think that was all rumors and conjecture from the community, and I don't think it has any real basis on anything that really happened. That's just my opinion. But if anything, EA might have screwed over BioWare in different ways. I don't know, taking people off of that project onto different ones, stuff that we don't know about, But they did have 5 years to develop it, so
yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah, that to me makes more sense. But I think, like, as far as the people supposedly being up in arms about EA forcing BioWare to use this Frostbite engine, I mean, I genuinely think that's people just hopping on the fucking hate EA bandwagon. I mean, 1,000%. There was also the question of, how much did EA push for microtransactions and so on? To which he responded, they are a business, they have goals that need to be met, and so on. But at no point in time did they ever pressure him or force him into adding microtransactions. In that they were, they did have certain goals that needed to be met, but they were very open to creative freedom. To which I thought, okay, well, they had certain goals that needed to be met, and they are a business and have, things that they need to get done, but they're open to creative freedom. Like, all that's telling me in a very roundabout way is they let us choose how we were gonna fucking make them copious amounts of money. Like, that's all that sounds like to me. Is they were like, yeah, we'll let you mask it in any way you want, but you need to make us X number of dollars. Otherwise, we're fucking shuttering your studio, which is exactly what they fucking did.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I never played Andromeda. I probably should pick it up because I think it's a fairly decent price now. But I watched a 20-minute YouTube video on all the glitches and stuff in the game, and they're absolutely fucking hilarious. So I don't want to play it just for that, I think.
Well, the main thing to me is, BioWare, they were at that time, well, I guess not so much that time because of, the bullshit with the Mass Effect 3 ending, which I still say people fucking insanely overreacted to. That's one big unpopular opinion I have, is that motherfuckers got their panties way too much in a bunch with that Mass Effect 3 ending. But, BioWare were kind of darlings as far as game developers because of Mass Effect and Dragon Age. So Andromeda, when that shit the bed, I mean, it shit the bed hard. But the thing to me is the shit that happened in the background is very interesting to me and really sheds a lot of light as to why we ended up with the game we got. And knowing things that, like, they didn't bring in a new lead developer or project manager or whatever until 18 months before the game was to be released is kind of surprising. And the person that they brought in was one of the former writers for Mass Effect, which was a great move. And, there was multiple staff members that said when he came on board, that's when the game finally found its direction and started moving in the right direction and really had a focus to it, was when he came on board. And it's like, why was this not happening until 18 months before the game was supposed to be done? And they had horrible development problems with what was going to be the procedurally generated worlds, and it just didn't work. And the lead developer or whatever made the decision, hey, we're not going with procedurally generated worlds. It's just too much of a pain in the ass. We have 18 months to get this shit done. So then they had to go into world design and get all of this done, and then they could finally start working on the actual story and the dialogue of it, which is a shame because that's one of the things that BioWare was really known for, is their amazing stories and their amazing dialogue, and having multiple choices and those choices having an impact on what's going to happen in the game and so on. And to find out that a developer that is so well known for this, I mean, that's kind of their calling card, is their amazing stories, only had 18 months to get this done. It's like, the fuck did you guys do for the other 3.5 years while this game was in development? Were you just in a big fucking circle jerk, or like what was going on that it took this writer from a previous series to come in and kick everybody in the nuts and say, hey, this isn't how it's fucking done, let's get to work?
I would have much rather liked to have seen better facial animations and dialogue choices and that kind of thing. Like I said, I haven't played the game, but I've seen clips, and some of the options pretty bad. Some of the voice acting also was pretty bad from what I've seen. But I would have liked to see more of that because, like you said, storyline is really important in those previous BioWare games. So less with procedurally generated worlds. I mean, that would have been nice, but I would rather have them taken more time with more core elements of the game.
Yeah, definitely. And again, this is one of those situations where, like we were talking about right before we went live, where a game developer would have, at least in my opinion, greatly benefited from just waiting. Delay the game for another year. Give these guys another fucking 12 months to work on this and really make a game great. And like I said, we were talking about this before we went live. When you look at games, because we were specifically talking about Lawbreakers and them going up against Overwatch, which, in my opinion, at this point, if you're making a game, you might as well make a game that Blizzard isn't in. Like, make a game in a genre that Blizzard isn't involved in, because any genre that Blizzard gets involved in, they fucking dominate it, because they do not dick around. When they make a game, they make it 1,000%, and they never stop supporting it. I mean, they still to this day have old fucking Warcraft servers. I'm not talking World of Warcraft. I'm talking legit like Warcraft 3 servers and stuff. They still service shit like that. So when Lawbreakers goes up against Overwatch, they're going to get squashed like a fucking ant, because they're going up against the biggest game company in the world, Activision Blizzard. So for Blizzard, it's nothing for them to say, yeah, we're going to delay the game for a year because it's not ready yet. We don't think it's fun, so we're going to delay it for a year. They can do that because they've got the fucking pocketbook. Be able to say, yeah, we don't care if we lose 15 million because we have to wait a year. We're going to earn an extra 250 million by making this game funner to play.
Exactly. They know they're going to recoup whatever losses, from releasing it too early if they just release it later when the game is actually good, because people will stick with it for years.
Right. And I think EA's got the pockets to do that, and they could have done that with Mass Effect. But like Vertigo says there, they hyped it too much. It was way too big of a deal at that point that Andromeda was coming out at this time. It's going to be massive. It's going to be amazing. This and that. We're going to have all of this stuff. And the developers are sitting back there like, dude, we don't have a single fucking line of dialogue written yet. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And then it's like, well, we can't stop the train now. It's already flying off the tracks. But I still think they could have. Mass Effect has enough of a following, enough of a fan base that they could have came out and said, BioWare could have came out and said, we're going to delay the game for another year. We do not believe it's ready yet. And, people would have given BioWare a hard time, but I still think the majority, especially the vocal majority of people, would have realized, okay, they don't want a repeat of the backlash they had with Mass Effect 3. They are putting in the work, trying to give us a legitimate sequel to Mass Effect, and I can appreciate that. I know that would have been my thought process on it. Yeah, there would have been a vocal minority that, would have gave them a bunch of shit for it. But I genuinely believe, had they delayed that game for a year and put in the work required, they would have more than made up for what they lost, or would have lost by delaying it.
Oh, definitely. Usually the people who get mad at a game are people who really want the game anyway. I mean, that's why they're upset about having to wait, right? So that just means that no matter how mad they get, once the game gets released, they're still going to purchase it. Unless it's, crazy vaporware like Duke Nukem, or the new Duke Nukem, or whatever, when that was in development for I don't know how many decades.
Yeah, like fucking over 10 years.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying before the podcast too, is lots of these companies, set these deadlines because they want to make money for that year or whatever. So they speed this process along, and that's why we, end up getting shitty games with bugs or unfinished things, and they're like, oh, we'll just slot it in later. That's kind of bullshit. They should finish the game first and then just squash some minor bugs later on.
Right. Yeah, and very quickly, Vert, I did see your comment there, and I appreciate it very much so, bud. Yeah, I don't know why the decision was made to shut down the distribution points. I have no idea. It makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever. It still baffles me why people are still being charged for it. But it's absolutely ridiculous. And now, like I said in that statement there, those have been closed. So now it's on everybody around here to make something happen. So, doing what I can, basically. It's a horrible fucking situation. And if people in the neighborhood, don't basically make something happen, then it's not going to, because it's not in the news anymore. It's not worldwide news. Nobody gives a shit anymore. That was a year ago that people gave a shit. So it's now our problem, because ABC World News ain't reporting that shit anymore. They've got more fucking pertinent stuff that's gonna get better fucking headlines. So it's gone the way of the dodo as far as people giving a shit. So it's on us to make something happen. But I don't want to go on rambling for fucking hours, because I could lose my fucking mind flipping out about this shit.
Game politics.
Yeah, but the thing with this whole situation with Aaron Flynn talking about BioWare and Andromeda and everything, Aaron Flynn left BioWare shortly after Andromeda flopped. But the thing I want to point out with this is he was with BioWare long before EA ever bought BioWare. Long before they ever acquired BioWare, Aaron Flynn worked there. So he's not some, EA fanboy that they put into the position of running BioWare after they acquired the company. He was there long before they ever bought it. So the reason I bring that up is, he's kind of speaking well of EA, saying, they gave us creative freedom. They didn't pressure us to do anything aside from get the fucking game out on time, which every publisher is going to do that. That's not just EA putting on their fucking evil witch hat saying, you've got to get our game out there. Every fucking studio or developer or whatever is going to do that, or every publisher. So he's speaking fairly highly, really, of EA, saying, they gave us creative freedom. They let us do what we want. They didn't pressure us to do this stuff that everybody accuses them of doing. What are your thoughts on that, Locke? Do you think this is kind of a situation where EA has just gotten a bad rap over the years, that it's not really the case? Or do you think this is kind of a minority opinion where this may have been the case for him at BioWare, but it may be different for these other developers?
It's really hard to say. I'm not sure, that it's probably the truth if that's what he's saying, or he's saying that out of professional courtesy. I mean, even though BioWare is not, they got disbanded. I don't think that you want to like shit talk your previous boss,
Right.
or you know what I mean, because it probably doesn't do well for getting
Yeah,
a new
that's
position.
that's
in
how
the
you end up on
industry.
a blacklist somewhere.
Exactly. So I mean, it could possibly be that. It's really hard to say. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit. I mean, he didn't really say much in terms of all of the other development problems, as far as the two different studios between BioWare Montreal and BioWare Edmonton kind of button heads over the game development, and their skeleton crew by the end of it, and EA pulling people from BioWare and putting them in other places to work on other projects and this and that. Like, he didn't really speak on that stuff, at least from the snippets that I read. So personally, I agree with your thought that it's more so him not wanting to burn any bridges. I don't think a company like EA that's been around as long as it has is going to just out of nowhere get some shitty reputation from a handful of former employees to say, yeah, they really treat us like shit when it's time to really crunch and get the game out there, or they force us, or really pressure us to do these things. I don't think that is going to become the overall opinion of a company the size of EA overnight from two or three vocal people. I mean,
Yeah.
I could very well be wrong, but personally, I don't think that's the case in this situation.
I mean, it could have happened like that too. It's just I don't think they would have come out publicly and said that kind of thing for reasons I mentioned earlier. It's just not in their best interest as game developers to do that, I don't think.
Right. So to move off of EA and their kind of killing of a game, I want to move on to a game that is obviously very much so not dead and incredibly successful, and that is GTA 5. Anymore, it's pretty hard pressed to come across someone that doesn't own GTA 5 or hasn't at least fucking played it. So the report came out not long ago that GTA 5 is now the highest grossing form of media in human history, grossing $6 billion with over 90 million copies sold. 6 billion with a B as in
That's
Bravo.
insane. I'm pretty sure a
What?
lot of that has to do with their clever marketing and releasing it for console first.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Yeah,
They released
releasing
it for
next gen.
they released it for the 360 and PS3, and then it comes out for the Xbox One and the PS4, and then it comes out for the PC. So you have people that bought it multiple times. Best example being Hammer. We made a big deal out of
Like
that a
3
couple weeks
times,
ago.
right?
Yeah, he's bought it 3 times now. He bought it for the previous consoles, he bought it for the next gen consoles, and now he's bought it for PC so he can do the GTA 5 RP stuff with us. So yeah, absolutely. Their
marketing of, hey, we'll release it for this one and then wait a little bit and these new consoles, we can release it for them and they'll have to fucking buy it again. Definitely genius. But it still speaks to the quality of the game, the fact that people did buy it again. If it was a dog shit game and people bought it for the PS3, they're not going to fucking buy it for the PS4. But they did. Over and over and over and over to the tune of 90 million fucking copies.
It's kind of like the whole Skyrim thing too. Them Bethesda re-releasing Skyrim over and over with different legendary editions.
So the thing though with this is, it's being compared to Gone with the Wind, because if you guys don't know, Gone with the Wind was the highest grossing form of media. Adjusted for inflation, obviously. But it was a little over $3 billion. So GTA 5 has more than doubled the next closest form of media in terms of gross revenue. But the thing you have to think about with that, GTA 5 came out, 5 years ago now? Maybe 6? I'm not real sure. But it came out in a time when there was already thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other games out there to play. There was probably a couple hundred games between, AAA and indie games that came out in the same year as GTA 5. But all this time later, it's still selling and still making units. Gone with the Wind came out in a time where you had one big movie, maybe a year that came out. So of course, it's going to do really well. I mean, and this is not to bash on Gone with the Wind. If you like musicals, you probably enjoy the movie. But there wasn't the same amount of choice when Gone with the Wind came out. Same with Wizard of Oz. Huge movie because there was nothing else to fucking watch. Now when a movie does $1 billion, it's a huge deal because there's 5 fucking massive blockbusters that come out a year. So even though adjusting for inflation, Gone with the Wind being massive, yeah, it still is a huge deal how popular that movie is and still was. But when you think about the fact that it had to run in the theaters for months, not weeks, months, because there was nothing else as big to put up against it. Not that it kind of, lessens what the movie did, but you have to wrap your mind around just really how colossal GTA is when it can do this well and have this much competition and still be doing this well and more than double what Gone with the fucking Wind or any other form of media has ever done. And when you compare it to games, the next highest selling franchise is Call of Duty. Their highest selling game is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at 26.5 million units. So GTA 5 has almost doubled the amount of units sold from Call of Duty, which is their next closest competitor. That's absolutely insane.
That's nuts.
That game is that fucking big.
I'm actually surprised that GTA is, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I'm surprised that it's still popular with GTA 5 online because, they release new stuff or whatever, but it's the same kind of modes. You do these missions, you get money, and then there's more and more expensive shit. I don't know. I got bored of it personally after a short amount of time, seeing the system that they're kind of rehashing over and over with every update, but people still like it, I guess. They're still playing it.
Well, they got a huge fucking boost in the arm too, thanks to GTA RP.
Yeah, for sure.
That is by far and away their biggest drive right now, as far as keeping that game alive, is GTA 5 RP stuff. Not to say that the game wouldn't still be popular and there wouldn't still be people playing it, but it wouldn't be nearly as fucking popular if GTA RP wasn't a thing right now and wasn't as massive as what it is. So to kind of continue on with this, Take-Two, the company that owns Rockstar, they reported that they have earned $500 million from the microtransactions, the shark cards. Well, they said from microtransactions, DLCs, and this and that. All DLCs for GTA 5 are fucking free, so fuck off. You're not flying that one under the radar. It's all from microtransactions. $500 million alone from microtransactions. You think we're gonna see fucking shark cards in Red Dead 2? You're goddamn right we're gonna.
Yep, it's gonna be fucking gold bullion or whatever they're gonna call it, some other form.
They're gonna have fucking war bonds or some shit. But yeah, when you make $500 million fucking dollars alone from virtual fucking currency, yeah, that shit is gonna be their go-to thing now.
What I'm wondering though, like speaking of Red Dead 2, like what are they gonna add, to purchase? Because GTA 5, it's really easy to implement crazy vehicles and planes and shit like that. But Red Dead, I don't know, like different horses.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably have some horses. I don't. Maybe they'll, if they were smart,
land maybe.
Yeah, exactly. They would let you buy land and have a homestead, and you can buy a fucking barn and this and that, and you can buy an armory for your house, kind of like what they do with the apartments, and you can get these special skins for your guns, and you'll be able to buy experimental weaponry and shit like that. Like there's definitely some stuff they can do, and you give me a couple hours and a fucking pen and paper, and I'll sit down and fucking build you out shit that you can sell to Tommy on mommy's fucking credit card for years to come. But that's the thing is, do you think Rockstar will ever be able to recreate the success of GTA 5?
I think so. Maybe not so much with Red Dead 2. I could be wrong, but
yeah, no, I don't think Red Dead really lends itself to the longevity that the GTA series does.
Yeah, but I mean, inevitably they'll come out with a GTA 6 or whatever, and they'll make it a crazy big world or even bigger than GTA 5. They'll push it one step further and they'll do the same thing, and I think they'll be able to pull it off. Like Blizzard, they've proven in the past that they can improve on games and keep putting out blockbusters. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of people that say never again. Rockstar will never be able to recreate GTA, the success that they've had. The fact is, they technically already kind of fucking have, because GTA San Andreas, GTA 3, GTA 4, they're all basically the same fucking game, people. It's just different skins and updated graphics. It's still the same game. Like, GTA San Andreas is their next highest selling one next to GTA 5, which obviously sold a lot less. It's not the same game in regards, they didn't have the multiplayer, which is obviously the huge driving proponent of GTA 5. But now that they have that and they have it fleshed out and it works, there's nothing at all stopping them from releasing GTA 6 in 2020, and the map is twice the size of GTA 5, and there's 100,000 AI in the cities, and just basically increasing the size and scale of everything. And people are gonna fucking gobble it up because it's gonna look beautiful, it's gonna be fucking massive, it's gonna have some new features, but it's still gonna be the same game. And people are going to flip the fuck out over it because it's going to be huge. And so I personally, I don't agree with the naysayers at all saying GTA or, Rockstar will never be able to recreate the success that they've had with GTA. They've already fucking proven that they can. And I agree, I don't think it'll be with Red Dead. Red Dead doesn't lend itself to that. Even adding multiplayer, it's just, it doesn't have... Red Dead has never had the same following that GTA has. There's a lot of people now that are, huge cheerleaders for Red Dead and stuff because they played it years ago on the Xbox. But it's never been as big as GTA. Like, I was around when both of those games came out. I was playing games when both of them came out. the original, GTA and GTA 2 and stuff, the top-down ones, weren't as popular. But when GTA 3 hit, that shit was way more fucking popular than what Red Dead Redemption was, or Red Dead Revolver. And when GTA San Andreas hit, fuck. That was the biggest game on the planet at the time. Especially with all the, controversy about the hot coffee shit. So yeah, it's just Red Dead, no, that is not their vehicle to recreate that success. But their GTA 6 in 2-3 years, absolutely.
I think Rockstar made a big mistake by not releasing Red Dead on PC. I think that they could have at least extended its life and made a bunch more dollars for the PC gamers. But I can't remember why they never did it. Maybe some kind of red tape stuff. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe. But the other thing I want to bring up here, talking about GTA and all of the success that it's had, and $6 billion in gross revenue and so on. Last year, in 2017, the gaming industry as a whole grossed $36 billion in 2017. $36 billion. Now, in comparison, the movie industry grossed 40. Now, obviously, billion, it's a big goddamn number. So even $4 billion difference is a big deal. But when you think about the difference in the amount of money that goes into them, even games like GTA don't have a $500 million budget. It's not the Avengers. They're not putting that kind of money into it. The obviously, like, the movie going audience is much larger than the gaming audience, or at least we thought so. But to look at it now in the past, in 2017, and see that the gaming industry did 36 billion while film did 40 billion, that says a lot to kind of where culture is heading, and that gaming isn't a 15-year-old kid sitting in mom's basement playing games. We've known that for a while. There's been many fucking studies that tell us average age of gamers is, mid 30s and so on. But still, I mean, this is really proof that the gaming industry ain't no fucking slouch when it's going toe to toe with movies, and especially when you consider, you have Far Cry 5 doubling the amount of money that Gone with the Wind has earned. But do you, Locke, think that this is a trend that is going to continue to rise? Do you foresee gaming surpassing movies at some point?
I think so. I'm not sure about surpassing, but it'll definitely stay on par with it, especially with the advent of virtual reality in the future. The more that gets refined, and the more people get to live in these crazy worlds, not just through a monitor, but through VR and that kind of thing, it's just going to grow and grow and grow. Even like the average person who maybe isn't into gaming, they're going to eventually find out about VR headsets. They're going to try it, and it's going to blow their fucking socks off, and they're going to have one, and then tech will just start, it'll just keep going from there. It'll start improving from there.
Right. And that's the thing. Have you seen Ready Player One yet?
I have not, actually. I've been meaning to see that.
Excellent movie. The story really isn't much, but it's pure fucking nostalgia, dude. Like, if it doesn't pull on your fucking heartstrings a little bit from your childhood, there's probably something wrong with you. But I loved it. Anyways, I mean, that's what that movie is. I mean, that's showing us basically where we're heading at this point, because exactly like you said, people are going to start seeing these VR headsets and want to check them out and want to try them. And, then at that point, it's no longer, the gaming industry versus the movie industry, or, are you a gamer or, not, or whatever. At that point, you're in the game, you're in the movie. It's all the same thing. At that point,
Yep.
You are the director, you are the star, you are the fucking character in the game. You're making your own story. So, and obviously stuff like Ready Player One is very far off into the future. You know, those people that I've seen that say, you know, yeah, that's, you know, 10 years down the road. Yeah, those are the same fucking idiots that thought Buicks were going to be flying in 1956. You know, no, okay, fucking use your brain a little bit. All right, maybe in another century or so, yeah, I could see it being, you know, in that same kind of realm. But it's not going to happen fucking 20 years from now. Okay, again, that people that are saying we're going to be living in that kind of future 20 years from now are the same fucking guys that were telling us in fucking 1989 that, you know, we were going to be living in a virtual reality like fucking Lawnmower Man. No, it's just, stop. But I do see that being our potential future long down, well, not our potential future. We're both going to be dead and in the fucking ground by the time that shit comes along. But eventually, yeah, I think, you know, it's all going to become one form of media. You know, you're not going to just put on a VR headset to play games anymore. You're going to put one on to experience movies. And they already have that. I mean, they have full-on virtual reality tours and videos and stuff like that. So that's already kind of becoming a thing.
Well, I mean, if you look at like the concept of flying cars versus virtual reality, flying cars poses a danger to other people and, you know, yourself. You know, I wouldn't want the average person with a flying car. That sounds like some danger.
I don't even want the average person with a normal fucking car.
Exactly. But I find that VR will be much more accessible, and I'm a little bit of a cyberpunk tinfoil hat kind of guy, but I think in the future a lot of people will be jacked in way more often than they are now.
Oh shit, yeah.
I don't think to the point of maybe that movie Surrogates or anything like that, but like, you know, way down the road. But I still think that people, once they realize they can be who they want to be, look how they want to look, and everything looks completely real inside VR, they can have the woman they want, whatever, they're going to be trapped in there. I guarantee.
Yeah. You're just saying it wouldn't be Surrogates because you don't believe Bruce Willis would ever play a video game.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, huge success for GTA 5, and I look forward to seeing them top it. Like, I microtransactions aside, you know, I'm still a fan of Rockstar. Like, I still like what they do. The multiplayer is fun. You don't have to have all the coolest shit to still be able to have fun in the multiplayer. And their single player is still pretty fucking solid, man. Like, everybody talks now about GTA 5's multiplayer and stuff, but the single player story of it was still really fucking fun. I've played it multiple times. And, you know, now they've got Red Dead coming, which is more single player based. You know, the original, that's all anybody gave a shit about. Well, not the original, but the original Red Dead. That's the only thing people really gave a shit about was the storyline of it. So they still make a really good single player game. And so I can't be one of those people that just says, no, fuck Rockstar because they have microtransactions. Like, I can't do the same thing like with Battlefront 2. There's nothing there for me for Battlefront. Nothing whatsoever. Same. And the microtransactions and shit just kind of added on top of that. Granted, you know, now it's not really an issue, but still, there's still nothing there for me in that game. I can't say the same thing about GTA or Red Dead Redemption.
But I'm really surprised that Rockstar and Take-Two, those guys didn't get hit hard. Like, they didn't even get brought up, to my knowledge, you know, when that Battlefront 2 stuff happened. Like, Overwatch got mentioned, you know, a lot of these other games got mentioned, but nobody said anything about GTA 5. And they're like probably the worst, you know, with the microtransactions. So I'm not sure how that slipped by.
Yeah, true. They really did fucking dodge the shit show on that one. And they are, I mean, one of the biggest proponents of microtransactions because of GTA Online. And, you know, when they make $500 million fucking dollars off of it, obviously, you know, that fucking scratch is coming from somewhere. So yeah, they really didn't get beat up in the media at all. When all that shit was going down, they just like sailed under the radar, which I'm sure all the guys at Take-Two were like, phew, fucking dodged a bullet on that one. Huh, God, I thought I was going to have to stop counting hundreds for a second.
Yeah, I think they might though with the new games that they come out with, because people are going to scrutinize it a lot more, like Red Dead or GTA 6 or whatever in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually, I'm going to skip this next story. I had to go to this one because we're talking about that. Monolith, the developer behind Middle-earth Shadow of War, is removing its marketplace where you can, buy loot boxes with real cash. This goes into effect on July 17th, which I made the note of. That's 3 days after Nicolas Cage gets home in Con Air. My daddy comes home July 13th or July 14th. Yeah, sorry. So like anytime I hear that, like around that date, like July 17th, every single time I hear something around that date, I think of Con Air because of fucking John Malkovich. I'm like, motherfucker. Yeah, every time it's like, my daddy's coming home on July 14th. But they're saying that this will kind of streamline the end game of Shadow of War, because it was very much so a grind if you didn't want to pay for these loot boxes and get these epic orcs and so on. And that's the reason that I personally stopped playing Shadow of War. I technically beat the game or reached the quote-unquote soft ending, which is retarded. It just makes it sound like a fucking porn film that ended before it should have. But the end game grind is basically you have to earn all these orcs that are of like epic and legendary quality to defend your outposts. And once you defend all your outposts or whatever, then you get the real ending to the game. And it was just a massive grind. And it was designed to be a massive grind. So you would spend money to get these loot boxes, to get the orcs out of the loot boxes.
And that's exactly why I didn't get into that game. It was interesting to me. I enjoyed the first one. But as soon as I heard that this is something that was happening, that they were implementing, I knew it was going to be a big problem. And the fact that they purposefully added a grind to the end of the single-player game, that are gating your progression due to microtransactions.
Yeah, that's shady as fuck.
Yeah, so I didn't even purchase it.
So in this announcement, when Monolith said that they're going to be removing the marketplace, it's going to be reducing that. They're going to be reducing that grind at the end of the game. As of July 17th, you're no longer going to be able to buy loot chests with real money and stuff. Warner Brothers, who's the publisher for Shadow of War, also announced that there will be several free updates released for Shadow of War over the course of the next couple of years. They will be releasing multiple free updates with new content and stuff like that over the next couple of years. So my question is, hearing that they're getting rid of the marketplace, so it's going to be the game it should have been in the fucking first place, does that kind of reignite your interest in the game itself? Does that make you kind of take a second look at it now and say, well, now that that's going to be gone, maybe I will pick it up?
Yeah, in a way. Although I think I would only buy it at discount. I wouldn't pay full price because fuck them, they screwed up the first time. So
right.
I'm gonna pay a little bit less for it if I do decide to get into it after they fixed it, just as on general principle, I think.
Right, and so I mean, personally, I recommend the game. It is very fun to play. The gameplay itself is very, very fun. It is very Assassin's Creed like, climb towers, fucking jump off towers, stab guys in the throat, shit like that. But it is a very fun game to play, and the story is pretty damn decent. It does cover a lot of the Tolkien stuff that isn't in the movies, that kind of takes place before the movies, and kind of gives you... Don't get me wrong, they do fucking go off script from the genuine Tolkien lore quite a bit. But it does still at least give you a glimpse into how things came to be, how the rings came to be and what happened and all of that. So it is kind of cool for anybody that's, semi-interested in the Tolkien universe but doesn't want to read a couple thousand pages worth of novels. You can play the game and at least get a small idea of how things happened. So I personally do recommend it. especially with the marketplace being gotten rid of. After July 17th, I highly recommend picking it up. My guess would be it's going to fucking go on sale come July 18th. And if it does, pick it up. I highly, highly fucking recommend it, especially with the marketplace being gone.
Speaking of which, when is the Steam Summer Sale? That's in June, isn't it?
I'm honestly not sure.
I
I'm
think
sure
it's early June or mid-June, maybe.
I'm sure anybody that, like at my bank would be able to let you know.
Yeah.
But the thing for me, obviously them getting rid of the marketplace, big deal. Very cool news. But more so than that, in my eyes, the bigger news is Warner Brothers saying that they are going to support this game for the next couple of years and release free updates and free content for it. Which is kind of odd that, now basically out of nowhere, they're like, yeah, we're going to release some free updates for this and, give you guys some more content. Which is almost them like, please give us some good publicity. Like, stop raping us in the news because we fucked up. That's what it looks like to me. But my question is, do you think this is a direct result of Ubisoft because of Rainbow Six Siege? Because Rainbow Six took a hell of a fucking beating when it came out. And Ubisoft doubled down, put in the fucking work, and basically salvaged that game and turned it into a success. It's much more success now than when it was released, which is generally the fucking opposite of games. But it's much more popular now than it ever was at release because they've stuck with it. They've kept updating it, kept releasing content for it, and it has worked massively for them. Do you think that Warner Brothers looked at that kind of business plan and said, oh, they're increasing the longevity of their game, and it's more popular now than it ever was because they're continuing to support it?
I don't see Warner Brothers doing that necessarily. I mean, they might, but I think what they're seeing is like all the backlash from before. So that's their decision on taking out the microtransaction. They probably took a hit in their sales, with all the bad publicity and stuff like that. As far as Ubisoft went, yeah, they turned that game around, but that's also partly because it's already a good game. I mean, the gunplay is good if you like that kind of thing. It's sharp, so. But I don't know if Warner Brothers took a look at that specifically and decided to make changes.
Yeah, that was just kind of the thought I had when I seen it. That was instantly, the second I seen that byline of, Warner Brothers announces free content updates for Shadow of War, I was like, yeah, they looked at Rainbow Six and said, hey, we can do this too. That was just my immediate thought. But
I guess it depends on the level of content that they're going to come out with.
Yeah, true.
Have they said anything about like what they're going to add?
No, they haven't said, whether it's going to be, actual story-based stuff or if it's just going to be like, hey, we got some new armor for you. They haven't announced what they're going to be adding, just that they're going to support it for what was the exact line here? That they will be several updates released in the future, and they will continue to support it for the future of the game. So they'll support it for the future of the game. I guess that's just, hey, when it's not popular anymore, we're going to stop releasing shit for it.
Yeah.
They haven't given a set date or anything like that.
Yeah, and my apologies, I did miss that. So if they are doing that, I mean, it's good. It couldn't hurt, to keep supporting the game that you have out, that you put a lot of time and money into, just to keep it selling.
Yeah, and I mean, for all we know, they said that they're going to release some free update with content and stuff, and they're going to continue supporting the game. For all we know, that means they're going to release 2 fucking armor packs and say, there you go, there's your free updates. We'll, maintain bug fixes and stuff for the next fucking 24 months. And that's it. They fulfilled their fucking statement. We don't know yet. But, speaking of Ubisoft, we have to yet again talk about Far Cry. It's one of the biggest games out right now. and it's had huge success. Ubisoft announced that Far Cry 5 is the best-selling Far Cry game they've ever had, which is very surprising when you take like Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 3 into account. Those games were very popular, especially Far Cry 3. You know, Voss is still argued as being one of the best, antagonists in a game. I don't really consider him a villain because he got punked out like halfway through the game, pretty much. But they were very popular games. So to hear that Far Cry 5 is the best-selling one they've ever had, it's pretty surprising. They said it is the second best launch ever for a Ubisoft title, only second to The Division, which that didn't really surprise me. The Division had a massive launch. We were talking about that before we went live. Ubisoft marketed the fuck out of Division. I mean, I was telling Locke that I don't remember a game in recent history that was marketed quite as heavily as what The Division was. Even Wildlands, that they marketed quite heavily, wasn't near the size and scale of what they did for The Division. And that also kind of bit them in the ass when The Division underperformed. But to hear, that Far Cry, that they did obviously market it, but again, not to the scale of The Division, came in pretty close to it as far as launch numbers. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think with Far Cry 5, part of the reason why it sold so well is I think players can get into the mindset of the world. They're more immersed into the world and they're more familiar with it than, say, Far Cry 3 and 4, where 3 anyway, I never really played 4, but 3 you're playing like this kid,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and you're off in some fucking jungle island.
Yeah, exactly. But now, it's in the United States, you're in Montana. There's a familiarity there for a lot of people, who like guns, or who just like that environment, or they live in the countries, they can relate to the story in a roundabout way, I suppose. So
yeah, and it is an over the top kind of satire of kind of the situations going on in the U.S. right now. But like you said, it's familiar. It's something that we can connect with because we live in it, which I absolutely agree. I do think that's a huge proponent of the game, that they had the balls to do it here in the U.S. and not very closely shadow, but they did shadow the actual political kind of situation that's going on in the U.S. And that's a big kind of selling point, at least in my eyes, is that you can connect to it.
Yeah, definitely. Didn't Wolfenstein try to touch on that a little bit as well? With,
in a
different way.
Yeah, the newest one, parts of it took place in the U.S., I guess. I don't know. As any of you guys know that watched my fucking stream, I couldn't make it past the fucking stealth mission bullshit, and on top of that, like the whole submarine fiasco in Wolfenstein just fucking pissed me off to no end.
You never did finish it?
No, God no.
Oh,
I immediately uninstalled it. Immediately. Like it pissed me off so much. Fucking fuck you guys, and fucking 40 goddamn Nazis hiding on a sub the size of a small fucking house. Like, suck my dick. Fuck off. But the thing with Far Cry 5, it obviously sold very well, had a great launch. But the question I have for you on this is, do you think we'll ever see Ubisoft market a game as much as they did The Division? I don't know how well you remember the marketing campaign for The Division, but it fucking massive. Do you think we'll ever see them try and hype a game like they did The Division? Or do you think they kind of learned a lesson going, shit, if we oversell a game like this and it underperforms again, we're fucked?
No, I think they'll definitely overhype anything. It's always in their best interest to do so, even if the game doesn't turn out as good as people think it's going to be, because they'll make money from pre-orders, and that's a big thing. Companies want people to pre-order and get that money before the game comes out, before the reviews come out, and that kind of thing. And I'm personally a huge advocate of not pre-ordering stuff, because I find that the shit that they offer you and they give you is just crap anyway. I mean, and it only leads to support like bad development because they've already sold
Yeah,
the
they've
game
already
to
sold
you.
it. Yeah, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. So, if people aren't pre-ordering it, they're like, okay, well, we need to make this the best game we can because when it comes out, it's going to get shit reviews and then nobody's going to buy it. So,
Yeah, the other thing with that too, though, with the pre-ordering, I personally, it's very rare that I'll pre-order a game, but I'm not going to say that I never will because I do. I mean, I technically pre-ordered Far Cry 5. It was 2 days before it came out, but I still technically pre-ordered it.
yeah.
But the thing with pre-ordering and why I'm not completely 100% against it is because of the publishing world, books. Publishers for books love pre-orders because it lets them know how many books they need to print, and will also if a writer like R.R. Martin, for example, because he's one of the biggest writers on the planet, if he pre-sells or they pre-order 10 million copies of his book because they just know that's George R.R. Martin, it's going to be amazing, then the publisher will then say, well, then we're going to put X number of extra money into it because we know this has been pre-ordered and we know we have our money secure in it. Game development is kind of the same way as, if they have X number of copies pre-ordered, then they can put X amount of money into updates for the future or content for the future, or, hey, we need X number of dollars to get this done because it's not ready yet and we're going to have to delay the game if we don't get this done. Then the publisher can say, well, we've already, got this many copies pre-ordered. Yeah, here you go. Here's the money. Get the game done and get it out on time for these people. I'm not saying that that's obviously always the case. It is very much so, hey, let's get our fucking money while we can. And not saying that they're just trying to pull the wool over on people, but that's the only reason that I'm not 100% against pre-orders, is just because of those situations where it can sometimes be a good thing. But the whole idea of, exclusive content for pre-ordering and, especially the pre-order shit like with the Assassin's Creed stuff with that one copy that was like $500 fucking dollars or some shit.
Yeah, someone paid like $1,000
Yeah,
or something ridiculous.
That shit, it's like, okay, yeah, that's just you fucking cocksuckers being money hungry and trying to, squeeze every dime you can out of it.
I should say that what I said about pre-ordering, I would say don't pre-order if you've been burned by the same company before.
Yeah.
Maybe I should say that instead. Like if you take CD Projekt Red, like I will pre-order Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know it's going to be a good game, or I know I'm going to enjoy it. I've never been burned by that company, but if you've been burned by Ubisoft or burned by a different company before, maybe think twice about pre-ordering that next game to see if they've learned, their lesson from it or something.
Yeah. Well, Riley, Star Citizen's kind of a different thing because Star Citizen doesn't have a publisher. It's a crowd-funded game, so it's not pre-ordering in the same sense. They don't have, fucking Activision backing them up, putting forward, $100 million to make this game happen. It's all crowd-funded, so it's a little bit different situation there. But to continue on with the Far Cry news here, Ubisoft announced that over 50% of sales of Far Cry 5 were digital downloads, meaning they didn't go out and physically buy a copy of the game. They bought the digital download of the game, whether it be from Uplay or Steam or PSN or whatever. So that's pretty big news. The reason that it's pretty big news, two things, right? One, means more and more brick and mortar places like GameStop are going to be going out of business, which I'm okay with because fuck GameStop. Two, a lot of people don't realize when you buy a digital copy of the game, You are not buying the game. You are buying a license to play the game. You don't actually own that content, which a lot of people don't understand or don't realize. So like right now, the entirety of your Steam library, you don't own those games. You own a license to play those games, which admittedly is pretty fucking shady. But what does that mean? It means if Valve servers were to go down permanently tomorrow, if Gaben were to suddenly decide, yeah, I'm done, I'm going to walk away with my millions of dollars and shut down the Steam servers, all those games in your library are gone.
Yep. You would never be able to re-download them again?
Nope. You would never play them again. They do not belong to you. You own a license to play those games. So that's why it's a huge deal that over 50% of the sales of Far Cry are digital downloads. So that's why the gaming industry looks at this and says, oh, we're pushing farther and farther towards that end where people don't really give a shit about physical copies. Locke, when was the last time you actually bought a physical copy of a game?
Oh man, it was a long time ago. It was probably like, I can't even say 2005 or 6. It was World of Warcraft, I think, or something.
Oh yeah, like one of the battle chests or something, or one of the expansions.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, yeah, you always bought the physical copy of those because you got game time with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always get a free month. But yeah, I think it's a little bit different on console. Console tends to be more apt to buy physical copies. Granted, with the new generations, it's, I'm sure, much different because they have much higher speeds and stuff like that, much higher storage capacity. But especially for PC, you know, we have Steam and stuff. It's rare to go out and buy a physical copy of a game. I can tell you the last physical copy of a game I bought was Mass Effect 2. It was the last time I bought an actual physical CD for my computer, was Mass Effect 2. And that was, what, like 2005 when that game came out? I mean, it was quite some fucking time ago.
Yeah. Actually, I do remember the physical copy I got. It was Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls, because me and my lady picked it up on sale.
Yeah. Or no. Mass Effect wouldn't have been 2005. When the hell was that? I don't know. I can't remember. But anyways, that was the last physical copy of a game that I bought for PC was Mass Effect 2. So, you know, with saying that and talking about digital copies and 2007, there you go. So you don't actually own that game. You own a license to play that game. Are you ever concerned with buying digital copies of a game? Are you ever worried that you're going to lose access to that game at some point?
Honestly, I never really thought about it until now. You know, and it definitely is a possibility. I don't necessarily think it's a likely possibility, but it's still a possibility. Never mind the fact that, you know, even having the physical copy is kind of nostalgic, right? You get to look back. Like, I still have old CDs, you know, games and shit from a long time ago, like Age of Conan or whatever, you know. And you get to look at those boxes and they come with booklets and shit like that. And we're definitely getting away from that. So as far as being afraid, I don't know. It's definitely possible, but I think that the community would lose their shit if they lost all their games.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned the booklets and shit, because I remember when like the pre-order bonuses and stuff really started getting popular, and that was with Halo. That's right. The beloved fucking Halo really started the pre-order bonuses. Between that and Call of Duty is when it started getting ridiculous. But anyways, a lot of the pre-order bonuses and shit now include like art booklets and, you know, just like different bullshit like that. Motherfuckers, that's the shit we used to get for free when you go to GameStop and actually buy the fucking physical copy of the game. That's the shit that was included in the box. Now they've taken it out of the box, given you a digital download, and said, hey, if you give us an extra fucking $20 before the game's actually released, we'll give you this stuff too.
Yeah,
what?
That's bullshit. Like,
fuck off.
It used to come with maps and everything you could throw up on your wall.
Right.
You know? And now you have to pay for this?
Yeah, I remember getting, was it Oblivion or Morrowind? I I think it was Oblivion, came with a massive fucking map that was a poster, basically, that you could hang up on your wall.
My lady's got it in our bedroom right now, actually hung up.
Yeah, exactly. And there was some that like actually came with cloth maps and shit. Like some of the old school RPGs, like Boulder Gate style stuff, actually came with a cloth fucking map, like with every copy of the game. But yeah, so I personally, I'm not real afraid of losing, all of my games or anything like that, because like Locke said, like if fucking Steam servers were to shut down tomorrow, there would be fucking riots in the streets. And, there would be somebody flipping the switch, turning those motherfuckers back on before their house gets burned down, But as Vert also mentioned, there is people working on, trying to get legislation in to change the wording of their legalities, basically making it match hard copies so that if something does happen, you can still get your hands on that game somehow. But it is very likely that that's ever gonna fucking go anywhere. Mostly because now the general public really doesn't give a shit that much. Like everything is stored in a cloud at this fucking point. Nobody gives a shit about physical copies of anything. That's just kind of the normality of the world now. So we don't care, that we technically don't own it because there's no concern of losing it, basically.
Yeah, like and Ty Liger says too, a lot of PCs these days don't even have CD, DVD drives or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I know that when I, switched over to a different case or whatever, I didn't even bother putting my DVD drive in there because I didn't need it. But now, like I said, there's old games like Vampire Bloodlines, I want to play it. And I don't want to buy it again, but I have the fucking CD.
Right.
To figure that out.
Yeah, I actually, like, when I built my new rig, I put my CD drive in there, and I remember as I was putting it in thinking, why in the fuck am I even putting this thing in here? I've never used this CD drive.
Yeah, you're never going to use it for drivers or anything. You just download that shit from the net.
Right, exactly. Since I got this computer like 6 years ago, I have never used that CD drive. Never fucking put a CD in it, watched a movie, put a game in it, nothing. I've never had to use it. But it's still in there just because.
Just in case.
Just in case, exactly. So along with all of these other announcements with Far Cry 5, Ubisoft announced that they are going to be supporting the Far Cry community in the months and years to come. So do you think that means we're going to see future content for Far Cry 5, future updates released for it? Again, much like we've seen for Rainbow Six?
Yeah, I think they've actually already announced some standalone DLC stuff that's not related to the storyline in any way. I think one of them is something to do with zombies and some other thing. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, the Mars, Trapped on Mars or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So I know that those are already in the works.
Yeah, and the other question that I have written down here is, do you think Ubisoft has kind of turned a leaf after Siege and after seeing their, the monumental failure of it on launch and now kind of bringing it back from the ashes? Do you think we've seen kind of a change in the playbook from Ubisoft and compared to what they've done of old because of the now success of Rainbow Six?
I think so. I think they're realizing that they can't get away with as much lazy game development and programming as maybe they were doing before. I mean, it's still there. I still see it in some aspects, but I think they are making an effort to improve. That's noticeable to me.
Right. And I agree. It's, to me, it's fairly obvious that Ubisoft is trying to kind of turn around the public opinion of them and improve that. And I'm not going to bust their balls on it. I mean, there's enough people already fucking raking them over the coals for the bad decisions that they've made and stuff. They know they've fucked up. I personally, I want to see them redeem themselves. Anybody that says they don't personally is, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you not want to see a game developer improve and redeem themselves? It just
Some
it
people
makes no
want to
sense.
watch the world burn.
Yeah, pretty much. I guess so. You're right on that one. But I do think they are making a conscious effort to improve not only their practices but the games themselves. And the reason I say that last part is, Far Cry, it is not the highest rated Far Cry as far as Metascore and critics and stuff like that. But to me, it is the funnest. It is the funnest Far Cry I have ever played, and that's taking Far Cry 2 and Far Cry 3 into account. Far Cry 1 fucking sucked, all right? Just get that out of the way. 2 and 3 were fun, but this newest one, some of the most fun gameplay I've ever had. Yeah, there is some annoying shit that takes place, but as far as just pure mindless fun, Far Cry 5 is pretty fucking far up there for me as just fun gameplay.
You can go in this big open world and fuck around, and there's stuff happening all around you, animals and all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's incredibly fun to just hop into and just kind of explore, just go around and do shit. When you do the co-op and both of you not getting progression, yeah, kind of annoying, but the gameplay itself is so fun, it makes up for it. Like, I'm fine with playing co-op with someone and me being kind of the tag along and not getting progression. I mean, besides the fact that I've completed the story now, but I don't really give a shit because it's so fun to play, especially with another person. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit if I progress or not. I just want to have fun randomly fucking, running around and, killing a fucking cow on our way to do a mission and then getting sidetracked 18 other times before we actually get to the mission that we were going to do an hour and a half ago. Like, that to me is awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's certainly no lack of content in that world. Far Cry 5, there's so much happening all over the place. Even after I'm assuming even after you finish the story, which I haven't done yet, you just go around and there's always, still things going on.
Yeah, there's still, the world is still happening after the game finishes. The fact that if you get this certain, quote unquote bad ending, you can't do any side missions afterwards. I'm perfectly fine with that, simply because of the fact that I'm old school fucking RPG player, dude. You're supposed to finish all that shit before you go on that final mission, and that's exactly what I fucking did. I didn't have a single side quest, fucking nothing left before I went on that final mission, because I fucking know better. Granted, that may not be the normal practice of today's games, but yeah, I ain't leaving shit to chance, and I am like that every single time I play any type of story-driven game. I will do every single side quest or whatever that I'm interested in before I go on what I know is the final mission. Because I'm not taking that chance that either A, won't be able to continue playing the game afterwards, or B, won't be able to do those missions afterwards.
Yeah, I've got a lot of game OCD as well. Like, I can't leave shit unfinished. It'll bug me.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, a complaint that some people have with the ending. I personally had much different complaints, just with just the way the ending was, as far as I get, again, the quote unquote bad ending, but whatever. So one of the final things I want to get into here, as far as like gaming news and stuff, this week is, it was announced when the USS Colorado, one of the U.S. Navy's newest fucking and most expensive submarines ever made, is partially controlled with an Xbox 360 controller. That is correct. One of the U.S. Navy's flagship fucking new submarines is controlled with a legit Xbox 360 controller. This controller is replacing a set of joystick controls that cost the Navy $38,000. And they replaced it with a $30 360 controller. Now, I've seen this done with UAVs and unmanned drones and stuff. They've used game controllers for those. It's actually fairly common practice now. But this made me think, does the military now have to look into other areas of what they're doing and the small little things they have that actually cost insane amounts of money, and say, is there something else we can use to kind of cut back on this $36 billion a year budget? Because you can't ignore 1,000% savings. So is there some other piece out there? Like, the thing that immediately came to mind for me is in the turret of a gun truck, of like a Cougar. Some of those turrets are actually electronically controlled. You have a joystick up there. So instead of having to pull the lever and release it and spin the turret around yourself, you actually just reach down to this joystick and turn it left or right, and it turns the turns the turret. How much does that little fucking joystick that turns that turret cost? Does that thing cost like $15,000? Because they could go to like any rundown arcade that's about to close and grab like the same joystick for probably 50 cents. So that's kind of my wondering is, does the military now have to look and say, should we really pay $50,000 for this, or should we go to Walmart and pick it up for $10? So it's not like really huge gaming news per se, but obviously it's something that's important to me and a lot of the people I know. And it is pretty ridiculous to think that, the fucking Navy is paying almost $40,000 for these fucking joystick controllers, and fucking Mad Catz makes a knockoff for $15 that you can grab at any fucking, gaming store or Walmart in the world. Like, what? How is that even possible?
Yeah. I think something that's important about utilizing things like that, though, is making sure that those controllers don't fail. If you're engaging targets in a life and death situation, and the shit runs out of batteries, or the wiring fails in it and it can't engage or move, that'll be a problem.
That would be, that would be the headline, though. Like, if something went wrong, it would be the hugest fucking headline that, fucking Microsoft to blame for, U.S. drone bombing a fucking village or some shit,
Oh, Jesus.
Like, that would be the thing. Never mind the fact that equipment fails all the time. The fact that that thing was controlled by a video game controller, that would be the news.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That would be bad. Real bad.
Yeah, it's, well, it is what it is, I guess. So, like I said, not huge gaming news, but I thought it was kind of an interesting little piece that, the Navy's got this big badass new fucking submarine, and it's partially controlled by a 360 controller. I think it's cool. So the last thing I want to talk about here before we end it up for tonight actually isn't really gaming related at all. Well, actually, there's two things I want to talk about here, because this last topic that popped up today actually is huge news. But this first part, anybody that follows my channel fairly regularly, I'm a pretty big motorsports fan. Over the week, Porsche decided to take a visit to Belgium. If you don't know why Belgium is important to motor racing, you're probably living under a rock. Belgium is the home of Spa, one of the greatest circuits on the planet. Well, Porsche last year, at the end of last season, pulled out of the WEC. They decided they were no longer going to be racing in LMP1 in the endurance racing, which was pretty sad to see. There's basically nobody, as far as big manufacturers, left in LMP1. There's still a lot of privateer guys, which is good. It'll be nice to see. I can't wait to hopefully see a privateer win Le Mans this year. But anyways, Porsche still has arguably the best LMP or prototype car ever built, and that is the Porsche 919. So they decided, as kind of a farewell tour, they're going to tour a 919 around to a bunch of different circuits and show what a unbound prototype car is capable of. Meaning they got rid of all the restrictions that they were under with the WEC and just made this Porsche 919 as fast as is possible with that car. No restrictions. So they ended up with the Porsche 919 Evo, which looks like a spaceship with fucking wheels on it. You know, it's still pretty much the same body shape, but they've gotten rid of the lights, added a little bit more aero to it, and so on, and basically just kind of cranked this Porsche up to 11. And yes, it is, as Axial said there, it is a great way to troll the fuck out of F1 fans. Reason being, as I said, Porsche went to Spa, and they decided to blitz Spa and ran a lap time of a 1:41.7, which is basically 3/4 of a second faster than Lewis Hamilton's pole lap from last year. So that means that now a prototype car with a body on it is faster than an F1 car around the holy grail of circuits, the driver's circuit that is Spa. What most racing fans and drivers consider the circuit to end all circuits. Porsche now holds the lap record around that place by over a half a second, which in the racing world, 0.7 seconds, that's a pretty big deal. That's a fucking lifetime on a circuit, especially when you're talking about cars that fast. That's a long time. So for Porsche, that's a huge, huge win. Granted, it doesn't really mean dick all because Porsche isn't going to be involved in the WEC this year or technically next year, since WEC season is going into next year with the super season. But it's still them being able to say, this is the potential of a car. This is what one of these things are capable of when you unleash it, which WEC, and I've talked about before on other podcasts, WEC already has pretty much the loosest restrictions when it comes to race cars when you compare it to, you know, things like Blancpain or F1 or stuff like that. WEC does really let these guys experiment. But to see them remove all the restrictions and really crank this car up to the maximum potential, and it runs a 1:41.7 around fucking Spa. I mean, that's just insane. You know, now everybody's fucking begging for him to head to the Nordschleife and just annihilate that place, which I'm sure they'll end up doing it at some point because fucking everybody gives a shit about that piece of shit fucking mountain road in Germany that should have been bombed in 1944, but whatever. But Locke, I know you are like basically falling asleep at this point. You just
No,
don't give a shit about any of this.
I don't know anything about racing or anything, so I'm listening.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's one of those, if you don't really give a shit about motorsports, it's really not big news to you. But for those of us that do like motorsports, for a prototype car, again, you know, a full-bodied car basically, to come in and stomp F1 by over half a second, that's huge news. We'll see if they do star, if F1 will come in this year and beat it. It's definitely a good possibility, but we'll see. So the last thing I want to get to here is actually really big news, and actually news that's pertinent to us, you know, as far as the 506 goes. And that is Steam's new privacy settings. Locke, have you heard anything about this yet?
Actually, no, I'm not familiar with that.
So basically, Steam updated their privacy settings so that all Steam user profiles are automatically basically private. So you can't see their game library and stuff like that by default. You have to go in and basically revert that. Otherwise, your profile is automatically locked down to the public. Now, this makes sites like Steam Spy, an analytics site that collects data from Steam and reports on game sales and how many people are playing games on the regular and stuff like that, makes games like that obsolete because they can no longer accurately acquire data because everyone's shit is set to private. And for us personally at the 506, it makes things kind of difficult for recruiting because we can't look at someone's Steam profile and see if they actually own ArmA 3 or if they own the Apex DLC, which you may think, well, why in the fuck would somebody apply to an ArmA realism unit and not own ArmA, or apply to a unit that clearly states multiple fucking times you need to own the Apex DLC and not own the Apex DLC. You'd be amazed how fucking often it happens. Why? Because people are non-reading retarded motherfuckers. So it's actually pretty common that we have people apply that don't even fucking own Apex, despite it saying right in the fucking application, do you understand that by this date you have to own the Apex DLC? Yes, that date was over a year ago. So it's like, that date over a year ago, that means you have to own the Apex DLC. You said yes. So do you not understand the question, or are you just fucking stupid? But
a little bit of A, a little bit of B.
Yeah.
Probably.
So it does make things a little bit more difficult for us. But for, again, sites like Steam Spy and stuff that rely on this data for their site to function, it's basically put them out of business. They no longer have a site. So we have to rely on the information provided by Steam themselves, by Valve themselves, to tell us, how many games are selling, how many people are playing specific games and stuff like that. And, people are worried that they're not going to, release that data accurately and stuff. I personally don't give a shit as like a normal games consumer. I don't give a fuck. But some people are seeing this as kind of a bad decision on Valve's part. And they think it's, Valve trying to hide their numbers of, how many copies that that Steam is selling. So how much money, Valve is making off of it. And people are seeing that as Valve kind of trying to hide away how much money they really make. Because, again, Steam Spy, they reported last year that Valve grossed $4.3 billion. So Steam alone made almost $4.5 billion last year. And, some people are seeing this as Valve kind of wanting to hide that number a little bit. Mostly so people will stop fucking asking for Half-Life 3. It's been a long time, all right? Just fucking stop, people. It's not going to happen. Jesus.
Yeah.
But I can't agree with that. And, I've got this written in my notes here that given the current climate towards privacy, biggest example being that the fucking founder of Facebook is sitting in front of Congress for the last couple of days testifying. I can't really hate on Steam for wanting to lock shit down and basically tighten up ship. Given how much pressure there is on Facebook right now about third-party entities gathering data via his website for Steam to now stop sites like Steam Spy from gathering data on their users from their, quote-unquote site. It seems like a pretty fucking smart move for me. Like, that's fucking covering your bases if I've ever seen it. To me, it very well could be a business decision, and hey, we don't want people knowing how much money we're making. It very well could be that completely. But to me, it looks more so like, holy fuck, this dude that has a multi-billion-dollar business is about to get fucking raped by the entirety of the U.S. or world fucking populace, really. And now he's sitting in front of Congress. I do not want that to be me in the next couple months when, you know, that spotlight shifts from Zuckerberg to Gavin. I don't want that. We need to stop that now. But what do you think? Do you think this is a purely monetary thing where they don't want people to see how much money they're actually making, or is this a reactionary decision based on what's going on right now with Facebook?
I think it's based on what's going on right now with Facebook. As just a general gamer, I mean, I don't care if they hide my profile. I don't care if people can see or not see what I'm playing. You know, doesn't make any difference to me. I am happy to see that companies are kind of doing that, hiding, providing more privacy for their data, because like you said, in the climate we live in of data gathering, it's just out of control. It's fucking stupid. So I'm happy that Zuckerberg is in front of Congress, even though Congress are a bunch of old dudes asking really funny questions.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have seen the videos, but yeah, I think it's a good move. I like to see more of it, not just from Steam, but other places as well.
Yeah, the problem I have with really this entire situation, you can fucking lump Facebook in with it. I really don't give a shit about it. I know that I don't use it, but I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of just how massive of an impact the online world has. And what I mean by that is, if you have even the tiniest of a footprint online, there's more information out there about you than you even fucking realize. Even if you don't have a presence online, the simple fact that sites like Ancestry.com, Me23 or whatever, like all these sites where you can find people that, you've lost touch with or whatever, find your birth parents, so on. All of that information is online, and it may have came from hard documents and so on, birth records and shit like that, but it's now online. And once it's there, it's pretty much fucking there to stay. It's always going to be there somewhere. It's just a matter of how hard you want to search to find it. So, believe me, saying, I'm safe, I don't have a Facebook profile. Sorry, it doesn't mean dick. There is still a fuck ton of information on you out there. It's just a matter of nobody really fucking gives a shit enough about you to go digging for it and find it. When there's a information breach like what happened to my father, who had his fucking tax return basically stolen because there was an information breach at his doctor's office, which is within a hospital. There was an information breach at the hospital, and my father had his social security number and stuff stolen, and they got his tax return and this and that. It all eventually got squared away fucking 3 years later. But, a situation like that, yeah, that's different. That was, somebody getting their shit hacked into. But shit like that happens every fucking day. So people's information is out there, whether you have a fucking Facebook or not. Believe me when I tell you, you are not anonymous. It's just somebody doesn't give a fuck about you enough to find you and basically ruin your goddamn life. Yeah. But, in a situation where there's identity theft, that's not someone, I hate that guy, I'm gonna fucking steal his identity and ruin his life. That's just, hey, I've got a list of 500,000 fucking social security numbers. I'm gonna go down the line until I get one that I can use. And the Facebook stuff and privacy settings, it's a lot the same. It's not a targeted attack. It's just fucking carpet bombing. And a lot of people get wrapped up in it. And again, your information's out there. It's probably never going to be used in any way, shape, or form unless they're able to get a hold of very pertinent information like a social security number or stuff like that they can use to then make money off of. But I guess,
yeah, it's all advertising, that's the thing, and that's the thing that scares me too. Like, I knew it was happening before, but more and more these days, like, I'll have a conversation with you or someone on TeamSpeak or something, and then I'll see a fucking ad for whatever we were talking about on Facebook. Like, that's next level creepy shit. Like, I don't know if Windows is like listening to what I'm saying through my mic all the time or whatever, but like I know that I didn't type it anywhere. You know, I could have been talking to my girlfriend about something and it'll like show up. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, that's weird. So my buddy Wu said something interesting. I'm not sure where he heard it, but if a product is free, if you're using something and the product is free, you are the product basically these days.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's any information they can gather on you is sold. You know, that's why telemarketers get your fucking phone number, because it's sold to them. They buy batches of fucking phone numbers and then call you and try to sell you shit. That's how telemarketing works. Any piece of information that a company can gather on you. You know, if you go to a fucking a website, and Drum is a big naysayer of this, or not really naysayer, but we always bust Drum's balls for not wanting to create an account on a website because he has to give them an email. I understand completely why he does that. When you go to whatever site it is and you have to create an account, you give them an email, guess what? Your email is about to get sold to another fucking company, and that's where your spam mail comes from. Because that site that you just created an account on, they just sold 150,000 emails to X company for $3,000, and now they're gonna spam the shit out of your email with whatever offers they have. That's how that shit works. That's why those free sites that you just sign up and create an account, that's why it's fucking free, because they sell your email. You know, that's how it works. Well, that's what you do, Riley. You just create a fucking bullshit email just for sites like that. The only problem being when you have to try and remember which fucking email that is.
Like liquidbob at bob.bob.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty good. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today. I do have a bunch of stuff here about Cyberpunk, but that's going to be a much longer conversation, because I know I'm going to fucking just fanboy the fuck out of that game. So I think we'll save that for the next podcast. But before we wrap it up tonight, you know, I want feedback from you guys, what you think about kind of this style of podcast, more so news stories and things like that. Not just gaming news stories, there'll be other shit too, I think. But what do you guys think about kind of this style, a little more organized as far as the news stories and stuff? So give some feedback on that, whether it be on Discord or message me or whatever. Just give me some feedback and let me know what you guys think. If I should keep it up, or if you never want to hear a podcast be this organized again, which is perfectly fine, because let's face it, you guys know I can sit here and bullshit with pretty much anybody for 2 hours straight. The last thing I want to bring up real quick, I talked about it very lightly earlier. I am running a special donation goal right now, and if you type in !goal, it will kind of give you the backstory on that and what's going on, and basically why I am doing this. And this is not me pleading for money or anything like that. It's just when you guys see a goal of that kind of fucking money, you're probably like, what the hell is going on? So just to make you guys aware of what's going on, why I'm doing it, and so on. Just want to put that out there so you understand that I'm not trying to fucking buy myself a new car or some shit like that. But that's going to wrap it up for the podcast tonight. Remember that once this podcast is done, once it's offline, you won't have access to it until next week, because my Patreon subscribers get access to it immediately after. So if you didn't catch all of the podcast, Patreon's the only way to do that. But right now, this is going to sound really counterintuitive. Right now, I actually don't want you guys to support me on Patreon. I don't want you guys to sign up for Patreon for access to this podcast. I would much, much prefer
to see that go towards the goal that I currently have. I can live without that extra $1 or $5 a month from Patreon. It's not that big of a deal for me. I would much rather see that, let's face it, amazing generosity that you guys have go towards people that genuinely fucking need it right now, which I do not. They do. So just keep that in mind. You're gonna have to wait until next week to catch this podcast on YouTube. And yeah, thank you guys greatly for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed this style. I know I had a good time talking about this stuff because it is shit that it's, is very important to me. And thank you, Locke, for hanging out and being a trooper the entire time.
Hell yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You always have droves and droves of fans here at the at my channel.
I don't know about that.
I do. They probably like you more than me. They just fucking put up with me to get to you. So yeah, that's going to be it for tonight, guys. Again, thank you a ton for hanging out. And hopefully I will see you tomorrow. I've got a couple of races going on tomorrow with Assetto Corsa. And then, we've got the normal weekend affair this weekend with OSUT and operations and all of that. So hopefully you guys will be able to join me for those as well. But that's going to be it for tonight. Again, thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you all later.